my name is Summer and I am excited to show you how to make this mesh pumpkin using the woven technique, which kind of makes it look braided. Really versatile, really easy. I'm super excited to show you. Let's get started. So what you need is your pumpkin wired base, and we are using a 10-inch mesh. I am using our kind of sage green burlap. You can of course use tan, you can use orange, cream. Pumpkins are so pretty in every color. But what we're gonna start is, I don't use any precise measurements. How I know how much I need is I lay my burlap or mesh over the pumpkin frame and I use my hands to measure it. So I lay my hands flat, and about a hand's worth of mesh on each side is all you really need. And then I'm just going to cut that piece. Because it all depends how big your pumpkin is and how wide and everything like that. So I have my little piece cut, and I've already cut this one for this size. What I'm going to do is we're going to weave it in and out. So I go through that side, down, over, down, over, till it's about halfway. And my burlap is kind of folded in half. And you can also make it whole, but we're going to just kind of squish it down so it doesn't matter which way you do it. But what we're gonna do is we're going to squeeze it till it's down at the bottom where it's nice and tight and wavy like that. Sometimes it helps if you grab your ends and pinch down like that. And we have this extra, and the extra is how we're going to secure it onto the pumpkin. So I'm gonna take this part, and basically we're gonna weave it like we did in front, but I'm just going to do it on the back, but then I'm going to tuck it underneath that front layer. So I'm gonna go and pull this, kind of squish it flat. And this one's on that end, so I'm going to wrap it around this base back there. And then I'm gonna come over here, and I just want to weave it. There is really no exact way that you have to do this one, then this one, then this one. What you're just really wanting is to create somewhere that's gonna hold it nice and tight. So as you pull it, it's giving it enough tension that it will stay. And once we're done with the whole back, we can go and trim anything that's being really crazy. And even later on, what you can do is either kind of glue them, overlap them, or we can go use zip ties. So we can kind of zip tie them together as we go to keep everything together. So we have our next piece that is the length plus a hand, super tricky. And we're going to start the same way. Now this one, the first one I went under and then over this. So now we want to alternate it. So this time I'm going to go over the first one, and then I'm going to go under the second and start that way. Because once you're done with your whole pumpkin and your many different layers, as you'll see, I'll show you, it's going to alternate. See how you see the wire and then don't? And they alternate. That way it holds everything together, and it gives it really a pretty kind of braided look at the end. So you go like that, go over. So it's half to give it some fullness, some thickness, and then I'm gonna push it down. And I start with one end. And since there is no bar right here, I'm just going to skip that and go to the next one where there is a bar, and I'm going to tuck it under. And then as I pull this side tight and down, it will create some tension that will keep that one there. And since this is an end like that, what I want to do is I'm just going to take this and go around. So it gives it kind of a little twisted look right there. And then I'm going to bring it back down here. And then the next open one is right over here. And I'm going to pull it nice and tight down. And I'm squishing them all down as I go. And kind of overlapping it. If it won't stay, you can push it. And so we're creating this kind of braided weave. And you just continue, we're gonna keep doing that until our whole pumpkin is covered. So that one was over, so this one's gonna be under. And I just kind of pull it, the whole pumpkin. Don't worry about it while you're weaving it. Whatever it wants to do is fine. And I pull that in. Okay, so now, oops, a little too much. It's covering my pumpkin. I'm gonna kind of fold it in half a little. You can also, let me show you another way. You can keep it all the way open, and you're going to push it down like that too, if you want it to be more ruffled look. And that was that one, so I'm going to take it over and then up through that back. Pull it nice and tight. Then I'm going to come around and go to the next one that's open, and I just kind of go, remember, you want to take it behind that front mesh. So all the kind of extra weaving and stuff is happening in back. But as you pull it tight, it's going to keep it there. Push it down, take your next piece, lay it over your pumpkin, and you're going to cut it right there. Okay, and so that one was over. So I'm gonna take it under. And I started on this side, that side. It doesn't really matter which side you go on, as long as you're alternating which one's up and which one's down. So that one I'm gonna keep open, that, and make sure I have enough on both sides to tuck underneath. Then squish it, turn it this way. So I'm just squishing everything down towards the other pieces. Kind of grab it, pull down that way, flip it over, and then I'm just gonna take the pieces and find the closest one, tuck it nice and tight behind. This is one of those ends where it's that way, and so I just wrap it around it and then go underneath the one that's right next to it. And I pulled it tight so that it's going to hold it down. And the more we do, we just keep squishing and squishing and squishing. There we go. Quick little weave. Flat. That one goes under. Have enough on each side. Center it, tuck it down. This one is a wraparound, and then it's gonna go under that, but behind that, because this is really, the front part is what we want to be seeing, not what's happening in the background. Tuck it there. Pull this one nice and tight. Come here, and then I can even just tuck it under one of those mesh too. Nice braided. You also can do this with multiple colors of mesh where you interchange them. Like a cream and navy is always really pretty. And I can this way, or an orange and burlap together is pretty. This way, this way. That guy, see how he's sticking up? So I just pull that so it's kind of nice and tight before I even get started. And then squish it down or fold it, whatever is easiest for you to get it to stay where you need it. That way, take it over, wrap it around, And if you're finding on one side you're running out of mesh, you know, it's not long enough, you can tuck it into another one, or you can cut your pieces a little longer. You can zip tie it, glue it, knot it, whatever you would like for it to do. Like that one I cut a little shorter, so that one I may have to zip tie. So if you do want to zip tie, let me show you what that is. We're gonna take this and see how it's going around there. What you can do every once in a while is go through the holes of the mesh and around the base of the pumpkin. And you just cinch it nice and tight like that. And that way you can even do that every once in a while. You don't have to do it on every single layer if you don't want to. But it does help keep it so things can be squished a little closer together. And if you go through the mesh and do it in the back, no one can ever really see them. So I squish my mesh down and pull the zip tie. Then I have kind of this end, which I could squish into the zip tie, or if you just push it down, it's gonna stay behind like that. Oops. This crazy piece doesn't want to stay where I told it to. So I can take it and kind of tuck it underneath one of the other pieces of mesh. Or you can zip tie it again. It all depends how many zip ties you want to use or how many you have on hand. If you have a lot and it's easy, then you can always zip tie every single layer and try to get it all together. So do our hands. Go like this. So this one was underneath that one, so we'll go over. Pull it, and take this side and put that one underneath. I'm gonna pull it down. Just kind of do that way, and then we can go ahead and let's zip tie another one because I had that one crazy loose end. Gonna go through the holes of the mesh of my back layer and then around the wreath. You don't even need to go through the front mesh. That way you won't see these at all. And you can even, instead of going through it, you could go around the whole piece of the mesh like that. There's so many ways. Like that. And then take this side and you can pull it nice and tight and flip him back under here. And we'll tuck him so he stays as I pull the other side. Okay, pull that like that. Then twist him around because he is the end. And we'll zip tie him to the other. That way, everything's staying kind of together. And then when we're done, we'll tuck and kind of play with everything. But while we're starting the process, it's easier, I think, to just kind of get the weave going first and then play with the back and the securing. It down. Loop this one. And then you can tuck it behind, nice and tight. And then I want this to be a little more gathered. One through there. miss the front. So see how I just go through the back and there's nothing in this side, right there. Pull it nice and tight. Keep this guy down. And as you're getting up, it's getting farther and farther, so it's wanting to push itself up. So if you find that that's happening to yours also, go ahead and zip tie him on. You could use bow wire, you could use anything. You just want to help him stay tight. And as you get to the end of your mesh bolt, also the curl gets a little tighter, and so it wants to play a little differently. But pumpkins are natural. They're all gonna be their own unique creature. So once you're towards the top, you can see if you like that fullness or if you wanna just keep going and making the lines narrower and fuller, you just keep pushing down and just keep adding as much as you want. I like mine not to be as busy and small for this look that we're going for this one. So I'm leaving my layers just a little bit bigger. Zip tie. I'm gonna go to the next open bar. And I lay my ends kind of across that bar. So let's see, you put my zip tie through the bar and then I lay the end of the mesh right over that bar. And I'll pull it nice and tight, making sure it's still going down. And then before I do this side, I look at the front again and see any pieces that are loose. I pull it tight one way so it lays more flat, and then I squish it down. And this is the end that the bar ended on top. So I take it and I tuck it around and I do it on the top of the layer. That way it's helping push it down towards the one we just did. And I think for mine, I am going to do one more layer at the very top. And it's not going to be too long because my pumpkin is small again on top. And then because it's smaller and tighter, you really want to make sure you're trying to keep your mesh pretty even where you're not just pulling one end as you're going through. Like that. Pull that end back a little because this one has more. And you just kind of, once it's through, pull it back and forth again to get your measurements, to get your sides even. So whether you like just to weave back the pieces, you know, cut them longer and weave them back in, or if you like the zip ties, then you now know both techniques and you can pick and choose one for your whole pumpkin, or like me, you can just kind of go with whatever needs it. Go to this little corner right here to get him nice and tight on the edge and tuck it under. So the weave through just takes a little more mesh, but it's clean. You don't have all of this. But both ways work great. And I'm just gonna go through and cut off all my zip ties without cutting any of the loop mesh, maybe. Now some zip ties I do right on the edge, but I also like to do them more in the middle because that way there's nothing that could possibly scrape your doors or whatever. So that is the cute base of the wreath, the woven mesh. You could do it with ribbon also, which is always really pretty. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure that you see this cute little stem. I mean, we're gonna put bows and picks and everything also. There are a few options for the stem. You can take some jute and wind it around each loop really nice and tight. It's kind of time consuming, but it is really cute where you just do it all the way around each one so it's still a hole in the middle. Another option that you can do is take your jute and wind it around the whole thing, where you tie knots or glue it at the base and then going around that way, which gives it a really cute natural look. But for me, I really love to add like a bow as my stem, and I have some leaf picks that I want to put on it. So let me show you what ribbons I've chosen for our bow. I love these, and as I said earlier, navy is the color of the season. Even if you have nothing else blue, the navy goes really nicely. And then I have another sage green that kind of matches our pumpkin. Now I usually add a really wild and crazy bow if you've seen our other tutorials. But this pumpkin, I'm gonna try and go a little more elegant, a little more understated. So I'm going to make a kind of a smaller, simpler bow, not as many crazy tails everywhere, and then we're going to add some leaves and other pumpkins to it to have it kind of coming down like it's still on the vine. So what we're gonna do is I'm going to start with kind of a darker color so it's against the green. I know I love both of these ribbons, but when you put it right on top of this, I think it blends too much. So I'm gonna go with this darker burgundy fall color as the base of my bow. And so I do like some tails, but I'm just gonna have them going straight down instead of up and down. So for my bow, I'm just, oops, I'm trying to do it upside down. Probably not that good. Make a loop, and I don't want it too huge. So I just kind of go back and forth with my ribbon. And then once I have it, I hold it up to my pumpkin to see if that's about the size I want. And I do like that size, and see how I'm kind of attaching it to my frame, my stem. So it'll be super cute like that. I like those colors, I love everything. So what I do is I make my bow like that, and then I use my bow wire, which is folded in half. And then I just take my tails through the loop and cinch it really nice and tight like that in front, because we're gonna add more layers. So we're gonna use that same bow wire. And then I just cut my tails. Now usually depending on the size of your bow, it's about 1 to 1 1/4 yards per layer. And then as I get smaller, it can get down to like 7/8 or 3/4 of a yard. Then I'm going to put this crazy pop of blue in the middle because I want to. It doesn't have to have, whatever color you put in your bow, it doesn't have to be in something else. It can be just because you like it. You know, people add cheetah or black and white to anything just because they like that pattern. And I am liking the blue with everything. So I'm just going to do that. See how I did like the same kind of bow, and I just put it right on top. Just made my loops a little smaller so you can still see that ribbon. And then I take the tails around the bow and I tie a single knot. And we do have bow tutorials that are much more detailed than what I'm showing you here, but they're really easy style of bows. And then I'm going to put the fall leaf on top. And so I kind of make my tails about the same size, and I don't want to cover up the navy ribbon too much. So as I'm making my bow, before I wire it, I hold it up to it, and I want to make sure that these loops are small enough that you still see the other nice layers behind it. Take it, wire it, and then we'll cut that tail. And they don't have to be the same length because we're going to trim them all up at the end anyways. Now then I take the wire around to the back, tie my knot. Now, I don't want to cover the stem completely, so I'm actually going to attach it to this rather than to this, but it will still look like it's in the middle of my bow. But all I do is I just take the wire and I go kind of under that, and you can either tie it to this or you can take them where one wire goes on each side of the vertical wire frame, and you just pull it to where your bow sits against it, and then you just tie a double knot behind. That way the bow can't slip, it's not going anywhere. And then I take it and I wrap it once around this top one, so it really can't go anywhere. I don't want it to feel like it's sliding down as the season goes on, or for next year when we pull it back out. And then I'm done with those wires, so I'm just going to cut them off. So we have this really cute, fun colors on top of our pumpkin. And of course we could be done, but we're gonna add more. We're going to take one of our pumpkin picks, and it's kind of a bigger pick, so I want to pull it apart. And each thing is on a wire, so as I pull it, it still has its own separate wire to use. And this one's kind of clumped together. Now this one, I could keep pulling it apart to all these little miniature layers and really put it in, but I like the length of it. I kind of want it trickling kind of down my pumpkin. And it's all wired, so I can shape it so it looks like a curvy tendril coming down. And what I'm going to do is I take the wired stem that is on my pick, and I'm going to wiggle it underneath my bow to where the stem is coming out over here. And you can either kind of work it all around, you can use bow wire or a zip tie, and I'm going to secure it to this frame so it doesn't wander down. But before I tighten it really tight, I'm gonna turn back over and see if that's about how much I want it into the bow. And I know it's sticking out and stuff, we'll fix that in a minute, but I'm going to cinch this down really nice and tight so it's there. Tuck this, the wire part, I just kind of tuck it down into it, and I also hold it while I'm pushing this down so I can fold it to go down my pumpkin. Then, right now it's kind of smushing our cute bow, and we definitely don't want that. So now, that's why we use wired ribbon, right? You can always fluff it afterwards. And everyone is a professional bow maker when you use wired ribbon, it's so simple. And then I turn the bow so it's facing downwards, and I really like this pumpkin. So what I do is I just kind of move my tails around it so it can kind of be the center of my bow. But because it's all one piece, it's so simple to get it to where you want everything to go. Still see all my layers of my bow, like that. And then I'm gonna come down here and I'm going to kind of touch every little leaf and twist it so it's where I think it would look best on my pumpkin and on my bow. Then I still have these other little pieces that I took out. This stem is a little too big for me to work with for now, so I'm gonna break it down even more to these little small pieces. And I have some things coming down my bow, so now I'm gonna have some things kind of coming up out of it, like that. And then what I do is, again, I just go around the base itself, and then I take the pick and I twist it around itself. And you can also use a zip tie to secure it again. So we're gonna take that, now that it's twisted and I got it where I want it, I got you where I want you. I'm going to go around the pick and around the wreath base and clip that thing so it can't move on me. Nice and tight, and if it twists a little, that's okay because it's wired, we'll just twist it back. So see how it kind of looks like it's one piece coming up and down here, but I take them off so I can put them exactly where I need them. And then I have this cute little leaf. You know, you could just keep adding and adding and adding. Make that come there. I don't know, I really like the way it's looking. Just because it comes on your pick, you don't have to put it in, but if you want to, I think some coming out over here. But I do have this other really cute pumpkin that I don't want to leave out. So I'm going to just use this part of the wreath. And the pumpkin is on a wire, so I just kind of take it and I'm going to fold it around itself really nice and tight and twist it so it's going to stay there. And it's also nice because it will kind of sit against the burlap and keep it where you need it to be. So now that we have all of the fun stuff in it, we're gonna go back and fluff our bow, and I make the tails look like they're kind of streaming through the flowers and the leaves. Like it's all meant to be together. And have the little ribbons tucking out, the pops of color. And then I go through and I cut my tails of my bow. I usually really like the dovetail, but there is a lot going on. And so instead of adding more angles to it, I am just going to do this simple single angle where I have the tails on the right. I have the short piece coming in. And then when I do my other tails, I'll have it, so both ones kind of go like that. That tail's pretty short, so maybe we'll kind of shrink this one to match. And then I'll put my fray check so they always look fresh, clean cuts. That is your burlap pumpkin, the weave, a simple bow, and a pick. And it's that easy. You are done. You've made a pumpkin. You can add as much or as little as you want. Remember, you can change your colors. That's the fun of DIY. You make it all you and your personality. If you like this video, please subscribe to our channel. You'll get notifications when we add other fun things. It lets us know what you like, what you don't like. We can do whatever you need. We just love to be creative and to share it with you. So thank you so much for watching and happy crafting.